do something. And I think that sort of that we looked. It was interesting even putting this presentation together because it's kind of like all the stuff that you actually forget. And it was just interesting in terms of where we've actually come from and kind of where we are today. And I think that it was kind of one of the things that we've tried to do here is it's not just all about the work. And I think that sort of it's about, like, you spend sort of like most of your time as an entrepreneur, like, I think you find like almost your whole life is consumed by your business, which is also difficult when your wife works with you as well. Your whole life becomes work. So what we try to do, particularly with some like the team as well, we try to make it a little bit light. If you don't understand what this is Amigo. So Amigo was sort of like employee number 3. So essentially he was sort of like we brought him in the BristoL Guild. He was sort of like a pink dog. And essentially then as a team, Carolyn, who's one of our very early employees, also many times has replaced Amigo's ears. And so it's kind of sort of like what we're trying to encourage with everyone is it's actually about kind of having fun. But kind of what I wanted to kind of give you guys an overview of is that, like, you've probably seen this diagram many times. Like, lots of your friends and family will probably think this is what you're doing and it's really friggin' easy. But it's actually kind of like that. Now I'm going to try and explain what kind of that squiggly line looked like for us. And it definitely wasn't sort of like straight like that. So that in 2014, we've been running the company for about a year. We built a product. We were lucky enough to get the attention of sort of like a marketing accelerator called Collider in London, who partnered now with Creative EngLand. And they actually gave us some small seed investment. They said, you obviously have something. Now let's actually try and really grow that. So we went through a very intense sort of period of about 4 months in terms of our business sort of being accelerated, which everyone probably thinks is a great thing in terms of just like accelerating, as well as having our first founding client, very quick the size of this room. And in the middle of summer as well, with one window, which the highlight of today was at 3 o'clock when Nando's actually put their rubbish bin out. We would have a seagull who regularly came back every day and would land on the window and look in. So from a seagull's perspective, it was really bizarre because it's like there's all these people squashed in this. It was really weird because also when the clocks changed, it came back at the same time, so you could obviously use it. So what we did is we actually moved from that space, we moved over to Old Market Street, which is where we were lucky enough again to meet up with Creative EngLand. And essentially sort of like this was the space when we moved in. I think we moved in there with 7 people. And how would you say when we left there with about 14. And so we went from 150 square feet to 700 square feet. Which was kind of good. We were saying, wow, we've got so much space. But by the time we actually left, we were like, I guess there was almost, well, I lost a desk, so I had to kind of like hot desk and move around and stuff like that. But you can see here, like, so Ray and I have actually nothing to do with these decorations. The team actually create this space themselves. But it's about, again, sort of like making an environment that actually people can come to work and be happy and use sort of like all of the skills that they have. And I guess that what really happened to us then was kind of this explosion of growth, which is where Creative EngLand came to us. We talked to them and said sort of like, this is kind of what's happening in our business. We're kind of not sure why. We still don't possibly know why. We have all of this growth at the moment, but we're kind of just getting on with it as such. But we were kind of like, okay, we very quickly run out of space at where we were, which was sad because it was a lovely space. We were in a building with lots of sort of like other lovely companies, but we knew it was time to, I guess, how to say, roll the dice again, and we moved here to Bar Street. So that it was quite a sort of fun journey, I would say, in terms of when we moved from Old Market Street over to here. You'll probably notice through these photographs there's quite a lot of things revolving around corks. And essentially there's kind of sort of like a measure that we had that I'll mention in a minute. But sort of when we sort of moved to this space, what we actually did before we actually came here is we actually said to the team, actually, this is actually your space, and everyone in the team separately came up with their own actual mood boards. So they scoured the internet, which is what they do mostly on a daily basis, and actually built their own mood boards of actually what they wanted to set like. And so as you move around the building, when we go downstairs later, you'll start to see sort of, I guess, how we've tried to, while still managing cash flow in our business, trying to recreate essentially what a lot of them put into their mood boards and such. But the key thing as well is that when we moved offices, it wasn't okay. Well, we did have removal people, but it was everyone actually chipped in. So that everyone was sort of, and one seemingly bizarre thing is that whenever we move, we seem to always have two things. Lots of stairs, and also we always seem to move to places with like pitched roofs. So that it's not on this floor, but on the floor upstairs we still have that pitched roof. I blame that in terms of why I have limited hair. It's from actually sort of bumping and scratching my head. Also now Munich, the Netherlands. We just picked up our first client in Korea and also Singapore. Not yet in Sydney, which is a bit disappointing. But we have an interesting sort of dynamic, and the team are learning this now as well in terms of the, we find that essentially we have work coming in from Singapore in the morning, and then very late in the evening we have San Francisco, who starts almost at like 5 o'clock our time. So we've become very internationalized very quickly, which is kind of a bit of a learning curve. I guess kind of what have we kind of learned along the way? Essentially, you can't really create a business, a good business, without sort of like good people. So we kind of have interesting sort of recruitment sort of techniques as such, so that we don't sort of look for a specific type of individual as such. So we look for people who are actually going to fit into our culture and stuff like that, and kind of fit into sort of like a team. And I think that this is not my quote, I stole this from Paul, our strategy director, which is about, it's not about actually managing people, it's just actually just managing the environment. And kind of if you create a good environment for people, people will kind of flourish in that space, and they'll kind of take ownership of their own sort of stuff. So, yeah, interesting concept to think about. And I guess as well, what we kind of found is that sort of like that we are quite a dynamic business, like that we have gone from kind of like down here to kind of sort of somewhere up here. And that kind of requires adaptation and stuff like that. Often sort of we kind of have this expression of sort of like, on a Monday, we probably don't know what's going to happen by Friday, but it's usually something good. And I think that that's kind of sort of sometimes how we try to recruit people as well, in terms of looking for people who are actually flexible and actually willing for sort of like a challenge and stuff like that as well. Cool.
Will you take questions, Max?
I don't know, does anyone want to ask a question?